Hey guys, it's your favorite Miss Blue, and today is Vlogmas day 15. And as you guys can tell, my demeanor is kind of a little bit somber today. Um, so I don't think this one is going to be pretty long, but just a detail of why I'm somber today. So today is December 15th, 2025. And on this day, 11 years ago, I lost my best friend, the reason for my whole existence. Today is the day that I lost my mother. On this day marks 11 years. I lost her December 15th, 2014 at 7:45 in the morning, actually. And I find that that's kind of ironic, not in a funny irony or a cruel irony, but just that's actually when I woke up this morning to go use the restroom. I actually woke up like 7:45 on the dot. Um this day is not easy for me. It has never been easy since she has passed, but I feel like this video, instead of me mourning her, I'm going to do an honor. Since today was the day, I shouldn't say lost her. Today was the day that she went home, that she was called to come back home. That's how I like to word that. So today marks 11 years since she was called back home. Um, hmm. To give a brief synopsis, my mother passed away from kidney failure as a result of complications from diabetes. I say that to say that everybody who is affected by this disease, everybody who is affected by this health issue, please, please, please take care of yourself. It is so much more than just sticking yourself with a pen or taking your pills and just not eating sugar and not eating a lot of salt. Is so much more. There are so many things that could go wrong when your body is not being properly taken care of because of this disease. She literally, I watched her in the span of maybe 2 years time lose her eyesight. She developed sores on her body. Um, she was wheelchair bound, could barely move. Me and my brother literally had to bathe her, wash her, comb her hair, feed her food. Half the time we had to feed her because she couldn't even see enough to feed herself. And it's not that I never took this disease seriously. I just didn't know how serious it could get until watching my mother's health decline like that that quickly. She had health issues my whole entire life, basically. Gallbladder surgery. She had diabetes basically my whole life as well. High cholesterol, on top of anxiety, depression. Um, she carried a lot of guilt and baggage from her childhood trauma and carried it into adulthood. And the woman that I remember when I was itty bitty was not the same woman when she transitioned. And I'm not saying that to say that she was a horrible woman. She was a beautiful woman. She had the most beautiful spirit. People just naturally gravitated to her. To this day, when I come across family members that I haven't seen in a long time, it's it's always something positive about her. They always are just, she was so bubbly, she was so light, she was just a breath of fresh air. So I always take that as a compliment and an honor, that no matter what anything she was going through in her life, she still left a beautiful impact on people, even though she herself was like in a downward spiral in her own personal life. Um, there are not enough words that I can say about that woman. Not enough words. There aren't enough words. There aren't enough pictures. There aren't enough memories. I vividly um, remember some days where there was only enough food for me and my little brother to eat, and she would go without, even though we both knew she was hungry, and it used to kill us inside. Um, I remember her putting up with a lot of stuff emotionally and mentally just to keep a roof over our head. Uh, as an adult now who's been through a little bit of life, even though I'm not old, but like to an older person, I am a baby. So when I say this, that's how I'm referring to it. But like in the short span of adulthood that I've been since I've been on this earth, the adulthood phase of my life, I can finally understand some of the struggles that she went through emotionally and mentally. And sometimes I find myself just praying and asking for forgiveness for those times when I was a teenager and just did not understand. And I was just going off and just making it more difficult than it had to be. But now, as an adult, having gone through some stuff, and I find myself now just apologizing. I mean, I know we forgave each other before she passed for things said and done, but it was just like sometimes even now it's still like, oh my gosh, is this what she meant? Is this, wow, this is nuts. So, but she was a beautiful woman. She was a very beautiful woman. Christmas was her favorite holiday. So that's why I always make a point to just be as up in spirits as I can during the holiday season, because this was her actual favorite time of the year. And I remember her actually praying. And she said that she asked God, and she was just like, she already knew that she was going to go. She already knew. But it was just like, I remember her asking, she was praying one day. And I'm sure she didn't know I heard her or overheard her, but I was cleaning up and I just happened to hear her talking to him. And I just remember her asking, and she was just like, if you can please, just the only thing I'm asking is just please come get me either before Christmas or after. I don't want my babies to be sad when they're supposed to be happy. They're already sad. My mom's already sad. My brothers are already sad. She was the only girl. So it was just all brothers. She's like, I don't want them to be sad. If you can, please just come get me either before or come get me after. And he obliged her wish because he got her 10 days beforehand. And I always say that God is always on time. Even when we don't understand it, even when we don't want to understand it and we're mad and we're angry, everything happens for a reason. And at the end of the day, he has the last say so. They told my mom in the hospital that she had maybe roughly 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, if that. That's how progressive it got. And she was like, I don't want to be in the hospital. I want to be home with my babies. I want to be with my family when that hour comes. And like I said, he has the last say so because they gave her 2 weeks. He gave her a month and a half. So we had our mom for a whole month and a half before he had to come get her. And in that month and a half was probably the most emotional, spiritual battle thus far that I've had in my life. And only people who have lost a parent can understand what I'm about to say here. I feel like this is only people who have lost not yeah, only people who have lost a parent can understand what I'm about to say right here. It is a spiritual warfare because on the one hand, I told myself I wasn't going to get emotional about this. I'm going to try, y'all. I'm going to try. On the one hand, I didn't want to see her suffering back and forth to the hospital, getting poked and prodded like a guinea pig, hearing her cry and weep, and she was just so defeated. I didn't want her to be here suffering, but also at the same time, it was just like, that's my mama. Why you want to take my mama from me? I need her. I need her. Like, you trying to tell me you have to do this? You have to? So just that spiritual battle of just, I don't want to accept it, but I know I have to accept it. And the thing about walking with Christ is there are going to be a lot of battles like that where you know you don't want to do this, but you know you have to. And it's going to drive you absolutely bonkers, but it's needed and it's necessary. So for that month and a half was just really hard for me. My brother doesn't really talk about it as much. He's very much introverted, even more introverted than me. So he keeps all of it to himself. So he's never been as expressive about it. So I couldn't tell you here or there where his mental was. I couldn't tell you. But for me, it was hard because we had a phase, that teenager phase, where we just were bumping heads like nobody's business, to the point that she even contemplated me going to stay with my dad permanently. Like I tell you, this me and my dad's story is a whole another story time in itself. Like we were bumping heads hard for a minute, me and my mom. And it took a lot of prayer and just having those uncomfortable conversations with each other as I got older. It took a lot to get to a point to where I could consider her like one of my good girlfriends, my best friend. And that was another part that just hurt because it was just like right when we got to that peak of like, we here, right as we got to that, he took her. He took her. So I had to stop. I had to stop being angry at God. I had to stop being angry. And I had to remind myself that everything happens for a reason, even the things that we don't want to have happen and the things that we don't understand, that everything happens for a reason. So it was a lot of internal talking to him at night when everybody was asleep while she was still here. And just, I knew I wasn't going to be okay. I knew I wasn't. But I just remember asking, like, just give me enough solace, enough calmness in my spirit to be able to comfort everybody else. Because I knew my grandma, her mom, was going to be a wreck. I knew that for a fact. Like I said, my mom was the only girl, the rest were boys. And that's also ironic because I am my mother's only girl. The rest of my siblings that she had were both boys. So I knew my grandma was going to be a wreck. I knew my brother, of course, was going to be a wreck, but he internally holds it. So I had to ask, I had to pray and ask, like, just give me enough solace and calmness in my spirit and in my body to be able to comfort everybody else around me, because everybody else is going to be all over the place. I need to be able to just, you know, be there for everybody else. But I very much remember while I was having this prayer, I very much remember hearing him. And he was like, but you need to grieve as well. You need to let go too. I was like, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. So the day came, well, the morning came, and it's cold in Washington State. That's where we were at the time. It's cold out there, y'all. So we were asleep. It was me, my brother, and my grandma. We were all asleep. She was sleeping. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, about 6 o'clock, 6:30. And I remember my grandma went to the bathroom. I heard her get up because all three of us was in the living room, sleeping in the living room. I heard her get up. So I'm not thinking nothing of it because I heard she was walking to the bathroom. So I just went and dozed back out into sleep. And what they don't tell you about death is not like it looks in the movies. It's not like it looks in the TV shows where you take a one last breath and then you just disappear. Like, no, it literally goes in stages. And it starts from days to maybe weeks beforehand. It really does. I'm so serious. So in the 2 weeks, I want to say beforehand, and again, people who have lost somebody, it doesn't have to be a parent, but somebody who's actually physically seen somebody go through those stages will know exactly what I'm about to describe right here. So I want to say like a few weeks beforehand, I remember she would just be having conversations with people that weren't in the room. She would be having full on conversations with people that weren't in the room. She would be describing stuff that wasn't there. And it was hard to process because we just knew that meant it was getting closer. It was getting closer. And I remember I was fixing her something to eat. And she was in the room with grandma. And she was like, these flowers are so beautiful. This is the most prettiest shade of purple I've ever seen. And there are no flowers in her bedroom. There are no flowers, there is no plants, there is no nothing. And she's vividly describing looking at uh like a meadow. It was like a plain field or something, like a patch of flowers. And she was describing the hue of them were just so vibrant and so colorful. And we're just like, ooh, this is getting close. And then I remember one day she said that she saw our baby cousin who we had lost maybe 20 years beforehand, something like that. He was only a year old when he passed away. And I remember her saying his name. And she was like, he's playing. Look, he's playing over there with the ball. And it was just like, it wasn't weird, but it was just like, they really do catch glimpses of like heaven or wherever they're going. They really do catch glimpses of this. This is really true. Because I used to hear people saying that all the time with people who had passed. But up until that point, I had never experienced that because I hadn't lost anybody or been close enough to anybody going through those stages. So I was just like, wait, that's for real? This is legit. She wouldn't even eat food anymore, y'all. Like, she would ask me to make her stuff, and she would say she'll take a bite, not even a bite, like a morsel of a nibble, not even the size of a grain of rice, and be like, oh, I'm full. That was delicious. Lady, I was just in here for oh, I used to get flustered off of it. And I remember my grandma would have, I remember a few nights my grandma would just sit me down and express to me what was happening, that I had to be patient. But she also understood that it was taking a toll on me mentally and emotionally because I was preparing myself for what was about to happen. So the morning comes, and my grandma's in the bathroom. And I remember she wasn't really talking as much. They don't really talk as much when they're coming close to their transition. They're very quiet. And she didn't really say much of nothing for about 2 weeks, words here and there. But I remember it was the loudest I had ever heard her in a long time. And I remember she just yelled, "Hey!" Not like a bad hey, like, hey, come here, but like when you're calling people to come to you, like, hey. So my grandma comes out the bathroom and she goes in the room. And I remember me and my brother sit up and we're just like, we're waiting for the signal from grandma because we're like, did she fall? What happened? Did she need something? Like, what happened? And I remember my grandma goes, she calls our names and she says, come in here. Your mom's getting ready to go. And I'm like, and both of us look at each other with this look and we're just like, it's really about to happen. It's really happening. We just give each other this look. So we walk in the room and she's like trying to catch her breath, but not really. It was like one of these, like you're trying to gasp your last breaths before you take your final. It was like that, like if like getting the wind knocked you trying to catch it back. That's almost like how it looked, right? And my grandma was crying and she was like, if you guys, she said, say whatever you need to say or whatever you want to say your last goodbyes. And she's getting ready to go. We went in order. It was me, my brother, then it was grandma. And literally, that was probably the first time in my life I actually saw glimpses of my life. You know how people say, oh, my life flashed before my eyes? That was probably the first time that had ever actually happened. And I remember the flashes of the birthdays and the Christmases and just the moments just where all of us were just up in the living room just talking and laughing. She telling us goofy stories. Like I said, my mom has such a beautiful spirit. Like, you were going to have a good time in her presence. You were going to have a good time, and all of that flashed before my eyes. And then the bad times and the bad moments. And the last thing that came to my mind was just the conversation I had with God and having to accept that he had to take her. And I knew she didn't want to go because she didn't want to leave her kids. She didn't want to leave us. So I remember I looked at her and I just started stroking her head. And I said, we had ourselves one heck of a roller coaster, didn't we? We had ourselves a great time. I said, I know I wasn't the easiest person to get along with. And I know there were some times you just wanted to wring my head. And I don't blame you because even I be wanting to do it to myself. But you taught me so much. And you taught me the true meaning of perseverance and still being proud, still to be proud. I learned from your mistakes and I learned from your rights and your wrongs. I said, I know you're going to be worried. I said, but I promise you, you don't have to be worried. I said, because even when it seemed like I wasn't paying attention to you, I was. I was. And I said, I'm not going to say, I ain't going to promise you I'm going to get it right. Because I know I'm going to mess up a few times. But I promise you, I'm going to be okay. And I promise you, I'm going to take care of my brother. I'm going to take care of him. I said, but mommy, you did your job. And I need you to know that you can leave here knowing that you did a good job with your kids, that you did a good job with us. But mommy, I need you to go, okay? It's okay. You could go. I got us. I got it. It's okay. You can go. You can go. Probably the hardest thing I ever had to say in my life. And I remember my brother said his piece, and my grandma said hers, of course. And this is where I knew that God is real. I always knew he was real, but this is where it really solidified that he was real for me. And I remember she looked up and it was just this glow that came over her. And it was just like this look of like just peace and calmness. How it describes in the Bible how we are when we're with him. Peace and calmness and love. And I remember she mustered up enough energy. She took her hand and she went like this, really slowly, really slowly. And she couldn't talk for real, but it was coming out like synonyms. And it was, I love you, I love you. And we all just started looking at each other. We were like, she's saying, I love you. She's saying, I love you. It was going inch by inch by inch. But she was still waving the whole time. And that's all she kept repeating was just, I love you. I love you. And we were just going, I love you. I love you. I see you later. I see you later, mommy. That's all me and my brother kept saying. We was like, I love you too, mommy. I love you. Like, okay, give us kisses when you get up there. I love you. And we're crying the whole time we're saying it. We're like, I love you too. I love you. I love you. I love you. And she finally put her hand down and she said it. She said it one more time. She said it one more time and let out this exhale. And it was like when you do that last exhale before you go to sleep. But it was so calm and so peaceful how she did it. And we waited a second We waited a second, and then my grandma put her hand on her, and there was no more heartbeat. She said she's gone. And we just burst into tears. We were in hysterics. We were just bawling. My grandma's crying. I had never seen my grandma cry like that ever. And she was just crying. And she took her brush and braided her hair. She said, I'm going to braid your hair into two pigtails like I used to do you when you were my baby, when you were my little girl, when you were my princess. And she took her hair, she brushed in two pigtails, and she put the blanket on her and put her nice and snug. And we just sat there and cried for about 10 minutes. And then we had to call the family to let them know that she wasn't here. So my uncle came, my cousins, just to call the family. And then that call, to call the people to come get her body. But I remember I stayed in the room with her. Everybody else left out when the family came and they're all consoling each other. The hospice nurse, of course, came to collect their stuff in their last bit and consoling everybody. And I remember I stayed in the room with her the whole time, though. I never left out that room. And I just stayed in the room and I just kept looking at her. And I kept rubbing her head and kissing her cheek. And I knew she was gone. This was just skin that was here. I knew that already, but still. And just rubbing and kissing her cheek and kissing her cheek. And just the flow of memories just kept pouring and pouring and pouring. And I would cry for a minute, then I would compose myself, and then I'd cry for another minute, compose myself. I'm not sad that she is gone. I'm not sad. Because I watched that woman endure a lot in the short amount of time that I had with her. And I always said I would rather her be gone and at peace than not here and suffering. If anything, I just miss that she won't be here for the opportunities and blessings that will arise that I would love for her to be here for. When I have my first child, when I walk down the aisle, that first mother-daughter conversation when you get engaged, the baby, just the things that I wanted her here for, she won't be here for. That's probably what hurts. And I know she's here in spirit, but it just hurts. I couldn't even get my first drink with her. I was 20 when she passed away. And I was very much a good girl in the sense. I'm not innocent. I'm just very cautious about my actions. I actually do believe in karma and things coming back in one way, shape, or another. I legitimately did not have my first drink until I turned 21. I did not. So I didn't get to have my first drink with my mama, even though she didn't drink. But I feel like in some ways her passing was opening for more blessings that probably wouldn't have happened if she was still here. Like the relationship that I have with my daddy now, I probably wouldn't have if she was still here. I may not have had my first drink with my mom, but I had my first drink with my dad. My first heartbreak, my first real heartbreak. And your mom is supposed to be there to comfort, console you, give you advice. She wasn't here for that, but my daddy was. And I do remember her saying that she wanted us to get a relationship with our dad. She wanted us to get a relationship with him. So I do feel like it was a blessing in disguise at the same time. But this video wasn't really to like, I didn't know it was going to talk about like her last moments. I literally was just going with whatever my heart was telling me to speak about just now. I literally was just going with whatever my heart was telling me to speak. But I miss that woman like crazy. But she did a damn good job raising me and my brother. She did a damn good job. And I think for everything that we endured, that we witnessed, that we saw, we turned out great. And I know for a fact she is so proud of us. I know she's so proud of us. And as much as I want her to be here to see these accomplishments, I still have her watching me. I still have her watching me. Sometimes I can just feel her sometimes, every once in a blue moon. And when people say I look like her or my mannerisms remind them of her, I take that as honor, as a gift that she still has a remnants of her here, even though she is not here. And if your mother is still alive, whoever this is for, mend those relationships. Mend it. Because once they're gone, you can't get it back. Say whatever you need to say. Speak whatever you need to speak. Even if they don't forgive you, at least you have peace of mind of your heart that you said what you needed to say. I can say with the utmost confidence, I thank God for that last month and a half. That last year, actually, before she passed, was where we had some of the deepest conversations and we got everything out on the open. And I can say with confidence that I have no regrets. There's nothing that was left unsaid. There was nothing left that I wish I could have said. I have the utmost, I can leave this earth in peace, knowing that I make peace with my mama on everything that we weren't at peace with. So she did a great job with us. And the only reason that y'all have this right here, this beautiful bubbly spirit that just likes to laugh and have fun and joke and pray over people and pray for people. The only reason that you guys have this lady here is because of that lady. So I love you, mama, and I miss you. And I'm going to forever carry you with me wherever I go until my last breath, until we see each other again. So, happy homegoing day, mommy. I love you. Miss you, mommy.